I'd like to call the Nashville Town Council regular meeting for September to order, please. Let us please stand for our pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. Let us pray. Father, we invite you to this town council meeting. We ask for your knowledge, your guidance, and help under our items on our agenda 4A, and that's the approval of our July 28th, 2020 call meeting minutes. Are there second?
Second.
Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Pardon? Okay, all minutes. If not, do I hear a motion that we approve those?
So made. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Are there any public comments tonight? No, ma'am. Okay. Let's move on to our old business. The first on our old business is presentation of the South Creek Stormwater Drainage Study Report. Drainage study, which includes Parr Drive, Aubrey Court, Village Lane, Windy Oak Drive, Laurel Springs Drive, and South Creek Drive. A summary of the stormwater drainage report we have now. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Randy, and you want to invite him up. Okay, thanks.
Mayor, council members, I appreciate the opportunity to come before you tonight. If you remember from we discussed the proposal that we currently have, which was lowering Windy Oak Drive, and then what that would do to the downstream property. So that's kind of where we were last month. I mean, we could not just lower the drive without actually providing some way for the water to get out downstream. The issue that we have with alternate number one is it drastically improves Parr Drive performance and the water and the flooding that we're seeing there. But what it does is, for the 4 homes that live at the back of Windy Oak, it would have them during a 10-year storm event driving through around 2 foot of water. During a 100-year storm event, they would not be able to get to and from the houses in the back. So it would help Parr Drive. It would solve the 215 Windy Oak drainage issue with water going underneath the house, but it causes further problems with being able to get home and emergency service being able to serve that cul-de-sac. And then ultimately what it does is it sends more water down to Lower Springs Drive, which we think is just pushing our problem. We may have solved one problem, but we've created 2 more.
Kevin,
Yes, sir.
when you say lower
Yes, sir.
Windy Oaks, are you actually saying, lowering the street itself?
That's right. It's still lowering Windy Oak Drive. Alternate number 4 provides the best level of service. It essentially gives us a 100-year storm events level of service for Windy Oak Drive, Lower Spring Drive, and the surrounding areas. However, it removes all of the existing pipe systems and puts in an open ditch. Open ditches carry far more water than a closed pipe system can. So from an engineering standpoint, that would be the better solution for this scenario. So it gives us the best level of service, and it gives us a solution that solves, I guess, all the problems that we've kind of pointed out. However, it does put an open ditch where currently there are existing closed pipe systems.
Kevin, is that is that number 4?
That is number 4, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm reading that you're going to put in 2 48-inch pipes.
At Windy Oak Drive. So just right now, there's one 24-inch pipe underneath Windy Oak,
Right.
and we will be putting in twin 48s underneath just the road.
Okay.
And then once we got out past the road, then it would go into an open ditch.
So start at an open ditch, go through those pipes, and then go back into an open ditch?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. If we put in the open ditches on both sides and did not upgrade the pipes underneath the road, we've got the same issue with a small pipe. So there are some pipe upgrades as well to that one. And then alternate number 5, I'm going to call it the Cadillac. Essentially, it is a closed pipe system for the entire stretch, and it will carry a 25-year level of service, which is completely acceptable for our streets, and a 100-year level of service for all homes. So I think it, again, solves all of the issues that we have. However, it is the most expensive, and it does close in the entire system, so it would essentially all be underground. So when you get to the ultimate cost, and again, we can certainly have conversations offline, one-on-one, to discuss the report in detail if we wanted to. But what we find is, if we were making a recommendation from an engineering standpoint, alternate number 4 would be the best recommendation from an engineering standpoint, which means we've got an open channel that conveys the stormwater from one end to the other with the pipe systems underneath the road that would handle it. The ultimate concern there would be the appearance and the aesthetics and the adjacent property owner buy-in, and we understand that. So that would be, from an engineering standpoint, alternate number 4 would be our recommendation. But knowing that if we had to choose a different one, we would go with alternate number 2. It does protect the homes for the 100-year storm event. The streets would meet the 25-year storm event with a maximum of 1.07 foot of water on the streets during that event. And the cost for that, right now, we've got budgeted at around $380,000. And I want you to understand there are 5 alternates we presented, one being low, one being high. There are multiple options in between of maybe we can do phases where we start out and do part of it to begin with, and then we move through, and 5 years later we do another section of it. So these aren't the only 5 options that we have to choose from. There are multiple options that we can choose from. These are just, we tried to give you something to start with. So again, we certainly could work out where we've got phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 to work through the entire project.
Any questions from the council?
Okay, you said alternative 2 is more like 380,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, instead of the cost of 336, which we have in our,
Well, I think the 336 may have added, or the 380 may add in the engineering surveying and all together to that.
okay, so there's more to the cost than the cost.
Well, to the construct, so we've got a construction cost at the top, and then we've got the engineering
Okay.
surveying at the bottom.
I'm looking at this.
Right.
Any other questions?
Sorry, can you just go through alternative number 2 one more time, as far as what all will be done on this one?
Absolutely. So for alternate number 2, starting at the very top, coming from Par Drive, we would install we would, I guess, replace the 24-inch pipes that we currently have with a 48-inch pipe, and then we would put an open channel on top of that. And then we would
When you
still,
say open channel, that was
Yeah.
what we were
it
talking
would be a
about?
swale on top of the
Okay,
ground,
but
not
it's gonna be
not a
covered with
ditch.
grass, it's not gonna be,
That's right. It would
Okay.
be enough to convey some stormwater before it gets into the adjacent lots. It just creates a lower spot right across that pipe system to help convey that water across.
okay,
So not an open ditch, it's just
Right.
really depression over top of the pipe.
okay,
And then we would lower Windy Oak Drive. And again, we would replace the 24-inch pipe downstream with, so make sure I got this right. With the grass line channel on top. So the pipe downstream would stay, and then we would replace the trapezoidal channel on top. And then Lower Springs Drive would remain as is.
okay. So on this chart, it looks like it says the 24-inch diameter pipe to be replaced.
48-inch.
Yes, the
48
24-inch diameter pipe will be replaced with 48-inch all the way through.
All the way through,
Yes,
48.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
I
sorry.
misstated that. All the way
Okay.
through, that's right.
Now, with the repaving of Windy Oak, you said that creates another problem. But in
It-
this scenario, it doesn't, because we have proper drainage with the lowering of
We
the road.
increased the pipe size. So
Okay.
the first option had us just lowering the road with no
Right.
increase in pipe size
Okay,
and nothing downstream. So this version gives us a larger pipe underneath, which keeps that level of service higher than
okay,
the first option.
okay.
Kevin, number 2, the cost is, the construction cost around $336,000. Number 4, alternative, $366,000. There's about $30,000 of difference, but what is the difference as far as the actual construction? I'm wanting to understand the difference between alternative 2 and 4, for the
So-
price to be so
Yep.
close in line.
So alternative 2 keeps a closed pipe system, so there's no open ditches
Okay.
running between the properties. So the biggest difference between the two, alternate 2 is a closed pipe system with a little swell on top.
Right,
Alternate 4 is an open channel ditch. So it would be a 4-foot deep, 5-foot deep ditch with a flat bottom with sides on the top, where right now the entire neighborhood is piped.
Okay.
But it conveys far more stormwater being an open channel than it does closed inside a pipe.
But you said the 336 is more like 380.
That's right. And once we choose the alternate, kind of the way we're headed, we'll finalize the report and get the numbers exact, but I think that's correct.
Well, the permitting design cost is the add-on, Louise, to
Yeah.
each one.
That's what we have to look at the bottom line.
Yeah, the 22,000 in addition to the construction cost.
So the open ditch, as far as aesthetics, property value, we know that's probably not a great thing. What about safety?
So certainly anytime you have an open ditch, I mean, you've got some concern with the aesthetics of it. From a safety standpoint, we've got open ditches all throughout town. I don't know that there have been any major issues with it, but certainly kids playing an open
Or I'm
ditch
thinking a neighborhood, kids.
have more of an issue than a closed pipe system that's hidden underground.
The report says we don't have any definitive information about underground utilities,
That's right.
so that is a concern.
Sure, well, you would have cable telephone and underground power. Right now, the pipe system, where we would have that issue would really be where the roads are, where we already have the pipe crossings. So we don't feel like that's an issue between the properties, unless there's something there that the property owners have that we wouldn't know about. That's the only unforeseen underground utility we really have to be concerned with.
How deep did you say this open ditch would be?
Well, we have to keep it and maintain it the same elevation that the pipes are, and right now the pipes are around 6 feet underneath the road. So assuming the ground outside the road is a foot lower, we're probably looking around 5 foot deep.
5 foot deep. And I know this is an off-the-wall question, but it's in my head here. In a rain incident like we recently had, how full do you anticipate that ditch would get? I mean, are we gonna look at a 6-foot pond out there?
Well, a pond, no.
Well, not a pond,
but it
but
would
you know,
certainly, it would
lip
certainly
of it.
fill up during a storm event with the amount of drainage that you've got coming from Par Drive going through that. We think in a 10-year storm event, we would have that ditch running around half full. The 100-year would be full. So when you're really looking at it, and keep in mind, part of that is how long it's going to last as well. So if it's a real flashy event, then it's going to come up high and it's going to drop over a quick amount of time. But
Right.
obviously, if we have a more stretched out event, then it could stay up longer. But we don't foresee that ditch being full for a week. I mean, it would be more 1 or 2 days and it's back down to normal.
Any other questions? If not, thank you very much
All
for
right,
this
thank you, guys.
study and report.
Maybe a question for the council, now that we have this report and know what the scope of each one of the alternatives is. If you wanted to get feedback from the 4 property owners along there, we could arrange for a meeting with them, kind of a work session type meeting, where Kevin would present this and then we could see what the reaction is. I mean, I like the idea of the open ditch, because I think that's going to give us the greatest relief from all future rain events without problems. But again, as Kevin pointed out, you know, those people bought those homes with a closed pipe system, and we'd be significantly altering, as far as they could see it, their neighborhood with an open ditch that they didn't have before. I guess I'd throw that out for reaction from the council. If you wanted to see, I could arrange that.
Am I reading this wrong? Because it looks like in our, in the table that was given, the option 2 and option 4 both cover the 10-year rain event.
The table's wrong.
It's wrong?
It is.
Okay.
We caught that, I guess,
Okay.
in our QAPC, but not before you guys.
Okay, so just as far as the rain event that the open ditch covers versus the number 2 option
The open ditch is 100-year.
is the 100. Okay.
I think it would be a great idea to involve the residents out there before we
Right.
move forward, but I do have a question that I'd like to direct to our attorney here. What kind of recourse do we have to the builders? Because this is a lot of money we're looking at here. If my memory serves me correct, and I wasn't on the board at that time, I don't believe, that we foresaw this situation coming and informed the builder or the buyer
With
of the
Par
property
Drive.
before they even build a house out there. So left us holding the bag, what kind of recourse do we have?
You're talking about in the Birchwood section.
Right.
Yes, uh-huh.
Well, I mean, I guess you would have to show that they violated some provision, and I think they would attempt to show that they met all the regulations. And so we would have to be pointing to a specific regulation that they were supposed to meet at the time that they didn't. And without, I mean, that's where it would be, and we would really need to get into, because the town was involved in the project as well. So we would need to look at all the correspondence between the developer and the town to see what was there. I'm trying not to be very specific, because you'd have to really hone in on one violation, and then if they violated that, then we could pursue that.
Okay.
I'm not being very specific, but I think that,
I know, but
if the council wanted to discuss that with the attorney, that needs to be in closed session.
Okay, all right.
Any other input? Okay. If not, we'll move on to item number 6B. And that is the request for a special use for property located off East Old Spring Hope Road, zoning district M-F, multifamily residential, for the purpose of establishing more than one multifamily building on a single lot. This parcel contains approximately 12.62 acres and identified by Nash County Tax Parcel Number 3810155325663. And at this time, Ms. Moss, did you have anything to say about this? It was approved last week by the planning board of the zoning, wasn't it, last week? Yes, and I appreciate them being here and everybody else that stayed to midnight. But anyway, the staff comments, I'll read those to you, or would you like to read those? The applicant is requesting a special use permit to allow more than one duplex to be established on a 12.62 acre lot off East Old Spring Hope Road. The multifamily residential zoning district allows multifamily more than one building per lot with a special use permit. The sketch plan submitted shows 8 duplexes, 16 units, with future expansion of more units. The petition property is surrounded by a mixture of single-family dwellings and duplexes with mixed zoning classifications of MF, multiple family, and R10, multiple density residential, R6, high density residential, and A1 agriculture zoning districts. With regards to the future land use map, the petition property is classified as medium residential growth. The surrounding areas are classified as high density, medium density, and agricultural growth. The proposed use would be in harmony with the residential character of the areas. Upon voting on the special use permit, the town council shall consider the following. The use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted and approved. The use meets all required conditions and specifications. The use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. The location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the town of Nashville. And the staff recommends that we approve the SU 2020-02. Do I hear a motion that we approve this?
So moved.
Second.
Before we approve,
Okay,
I just have a couple of things. Do we have to open up with a motion to discuss it, or can I just discuss?
We've had a
Okay,
motion,
good.
so you can discuss.
So one of the things is that we have a residential property to the east and then 2 residential properties to the west. And I'd like to protect those property interests by putting up a buffer of either trees and or fencing. just to make sure that we protect them visually, noise-wise, and just to make it as though it's always been. So if that's possible, I'd like to see that. And then the second one would just be the lighting that's in like the parking lot. If we could have something that, points the lighting down, not necessarily out everywhere, just for light pollution. Those are my only two concerns.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I guess this might be a question for either Sherry or Randy. According to the regulations for special use, one of the requirements when you have multifamily dwellings with more than one structure per lot is play areas to be provided for all residential building groups with over 5 units. And is that proposed in this?
It's there, but it's of such a design that I'm not sure it's going to be a functional play area. It's about 12 feet wide, a sliver of property that goes to a maximum of, I think it was 22 feet wide by 100 and so feet long.
There's a picture of it on the map.
Yeah, it's on the map.
So it's there, but I don't really know what all they're going to put in there.
And Mike Stocks didn't know either
Right.
the other night when he
So
was
can we
here.
just ensure that they actually have some sort of plan that makes it a play area that, rather than just a designation of a play area that's a plot of grass?
The council can put conditions on this special use, and if you wanted to specify that they actually put playground equipment in there, you're well within your right to do that.
I would like to see that done. If
Definitely.
we could make that part of the special use.
So would I.
So-
So would I.
Okay,
I
so
make the motion that we
Okay.
include that as part of the special use for this property.
do I hear a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we'll move on to 6C, the consideration of CP. Let's go with that one. Consideration of SU 2020-02. No, it's the consideration of CP 2020-01, request for a construction plat approval of a 41-lot major subdivision off East Point Avenue, zoning district R4, high-density residential. And if you look at that at 6C, it states, it's a request for a construction plot approval for a 41-lot major subdivision off East Point Residential. This parcel contains approximately 25.63 acres and identified by Nash County Tax Parcel Number 3810061648451U. And the staff recommends approval of this CP 2020-01. The planning board did recommend approval of it last week. Do I hear any motion?
I have a couple of questions with this one
Okay.
too, and I'm not sure how this works since it's not a special use permit, but with this one, Food Lion is directly north of this property, very, very close to the property lines. I know that's where they keep their garbage, their recycling. I think it's where it's picked up, so for smell, for noise, for light, I'd like to see some sort of buffer behind this property. Also for safety, I'm thinking too, people shouldn't have access to the backyards of these people through the parking lot of Food Lion for policing. So if we could have fences and trees lining the back of the properties. And then the other one too, I think on the sidewalks that I'm looking at, it looks like they go straight to the curb. For aesthetics and also for safety, I'd want a grass buffer between the curb and the walkway, if that's possible.
2 feet, 4 feet?
What do y'all think?
Two.
Two is enough?
They could be good.
Grass buffer, the grass,
Pardon?
you said the grass,
The grass buffer between the curb and the.
2 feet?
Yeah, 2
2
feet would be
feet, I
fine.
think, would be good.
Would it be in line to also make a request that they also provide a play area here too?
So this isn't a multifamily. Do we
It
have any
isn't.
requirement?
It's not a requirement of our ordinance.
But that's something to think
But
about, what
can
we
make
want in
that-
our ordinances.
We can make that request, look, can't we?
Phase 2, you could require the developer to give one of the lots to the town for a neighborhood playground.
I like it.
Would you like to make that motion?
But that would be, I mean, phase two
Phase
isn't
two.
Right,
on the
It's
table
not up
tonight.
that when we,
We'll wait on that.
Kate, would you like to make the motion to approve it with your,
Sure, yes, I'd like to make the motion that we approve it with the specification that we gave as far as fencing and buffers and the sidewalk.
Second.
all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
It is approved. Now let's move on to our next item, which is the sale of the timber on the town's 42 acres. The town of Nashville has received 4 competitive bids from pre-qualified logging companies for the purchase and harvest of timber on 42 acres of land owned by the town off of Industry Court. The bids are as follows. Tidewater Land and Timber LLC in Pantigga, North Carolina, offered $40,950 for the timber. East Carolina Timber LLC of Williamston, North Carolina, offered $42,280. Triangle East Timber Company of Mount Olive, North Carolina, offered $39,150. And then Gatorwood Incorporated of Wilson, North Carolina, offered $40,685. And the manager approved the Resolution 2018 awarding a timber purchase and harvest contract on 42 acres of land owned by Nashville to this East Carolina timber. Would you like to make any comments, Randy,
I
about
think
that?
I'll defer to Chris Cobb. He's our consultant that helped pre-qualify the bidders.
Okay, Chris?
We did receive 4 bids from 4 reputable companies. My suggestion was to go with the high bid. All of them do a good job. All of them carry sufficient insurance. All of them have a chipper, which makes for a real clean site. I did give a sample deed to Randy to give to the attorney, the town attorney, to have him look over and make sure everything looked good to him. But that was my recommendation, go with the high bid.
Thank you so much.
So-
We appreciate it.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
In logging out the environmental area around Stony Creek,
Mm-hmm.
is that going to be a concern? I thought, that type of area needed as much vegetation as possible.
We'll follow the North Carolina Forest Service guidelines, which has a recommendation for a streamside management zone requiring that they stay 50 feet from the edge of the water. So no equipment's allowed within that 50-foot zone, and that will be flagged out. I will be monitoring what they do, when they move in there and everything, once everything's complete, and make sure they stay out of that zone, make sure all the water quality control recommendations are met.
And you said it was 50 feet?
Mhm.
Any other questions from the council?
In the timber specs on the next page, page 31, it says that if we enter into this agreement, they've got 24 months to get this job completed.
That's right. Generally, the companies that are out there now, the bigger companies don't carry any more than about 6 months worth of inventory. That's put in case we have just a severe weather year or a complete crash in the markets. They want some kind of protection if they're going to be hanging their money out there. Somebody flies an airplane into a building and the markets collapse. They want to have some kind of safety net to sort of cover their time so they can have time to hopefully have it recouped.
But you don't anticipate 24 months?
No, sir. Do not anticipate that.
Okay. In number 4, it says, it is understood and agreed that there shall be no decking or loading in the open fields.
Right.
I'm not worried about the open fields, I'm worried about the paved circle that we've got out there. There will not be any,
No, there will be no loading in that area at all. They will have to set the loader and the trucks will have to back up into the woods.
into the wood farms.
Mhm.
So-
And normally they mat from wherever the road ends to
Okay.
where the log deck starts.
Okay, that's my
Yep.
question.
Yep.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you.
Chris,
have
could
another
you,
question.
could you give the council kind of your time frame for how this will all go down?
The way it generally works is they have 30 days to close, but very seldom do they take that long to close. Once the timber deed's signed, then they bring a check and exchange a check for the timber deed. The timber deed's recorded. And I would think total logging time in there, all these companies have fairly large logging crews. You're probably looking at, barring we don't have any hangups because of weather, that area does have a tendency to hold water. When we have a high amount of rain, it will hold water for a little while. They'll lay off for a couple of days, let that water drain out of there. But with barring no substantial weather hang-ups, so you're probably looking at about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Louise?
These specifications, who's gonna be monitoring this?
I will. Yes, ma'am. I'll be out there probably every day.
Good, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
I guess this will be part of whatever contract is signed, but what is the recourse if they don't finish in time or don't comply with these things?
I guess you could probably sue for breach of contract on,
Just monetary damages.
yeah.
Right.
Very seldom does that happen. I mean, these guys do try to do a good job, and that's the reason we went with these 4 companies. I've known that they have very good quality work. They do a really good job, and they have a very good reputation.
Okay.
So,
Any other discussion or questions?
Mayor, I move we extend this contract to that company.
Do I hear a second? All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you so very much.
thank you, guys.
Now we'll move on to our new business. The first item on new business is 7A, Michael Hurt's development of 9.42 acres of land on 608 Western Avenue. Michael Hurt, owner of the 608 Western Avenue, has withdrawn his application to rezone this property from R10 to multifamily and withdrawn his application for a special use permit to build multifamily apartment buildings. Mr. Hurt wants to discuss residential development ideas for the property with the town council. Randy?
As a matter of record and procedure, what I just passed out, this is the planning board's recommendation on the rezoning and their consistency statement. As you know, they are denying the rezoning of this property to multifamily, and their consistency statement is in there. And then, of course, with regard to the special use permit, they are recommending denial of that special use permit. In light of this recommendation, Mr. Hurt has submitted his withdrawal to pursue the rezoning and the special use permit as was proposed at last Wednesday's meeting. So if we could get a motion and a second from the council to accept
Accept
and
this.
file and record the planning board's recommendations, then we can proceed with Michael Hurt addressing
Motion.
the council.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay? Mr. Hurt?
Good evening.
Good evening.
A lot less people in here today than it was the other night. Yeah, I just want to try to set up, we listened to some of the feedback from the community, and we want to try to set up some kind of a public workshop with the council and the community to be able to sit down and try to come up with something that, maybe fits better or just kind of kick some ideas around to see how we can try to come together so that it benefits for obviously me, but the community at large. And so I'm up for dates when we can meet. Wednesday afternoon is going to work better for me. My kids pretty much have soccer practice every single day during the week, and I actually missed their practice tonight so that I could come here today, so I felt like it was important to be here. So Wednesday afternoon or Friday afternoon would be preferred. And we can do it in the next 2 weeks or whatever. I got plenty of time. We've done bought the property, so we are in no rush.
Do I hear any
Right.
discussion from the council?
Randy, and Mr. Hurt, are you suggesting that you just meet with the council, or are we gonna meet with the council and the residents in the surrounding area?
I think this would, for what we're talking about doing, it would be a public workshop. So we
Okay.
could get the citizens in the community to show up if they want to be here, and obviously meet with council and lay some things out and see if we can't try to come up with something that'll work.
Can you give us an idea of what you getting ready to propose to us?
I still want to lean towards apartments. But I think that there's a way to do things that can slow down the pace of, I think the perception is that we're going to come in and just develop it overnight. And this thing's going to be some big monstrosity And, you know, I'm big business, and we're fixing to try to make all these changes to the community. What we're talking about doing now is just taking a step back. Let's try to pace this thing out and do maybe something in phases. An ideal approach would be to try to leave the front road frontage R10, maybe look to try to do some duplexes there, and then maybe transition, start at the back, work ourselves up to the front, maybe try to do some apartments in the back that's not going to be a scene, not going to be such a big deal, and again, space it out maybe 2 or 3 years at a time. I mean, I'm in no hurry to try to rush something through, try to, force something on the community, but maybe if we slow it down, do it in phases, maybe the community can get behind something and say, you know what, maybe this isn't so bad. And then the community wins, we win, and at the end of the day, we can provide a service to the community that's in need, and the town can benefit from it through tax revenue.
And you did
And
listen to
obviously
what
us.
the citizens were saying,
Absolutely.
about what they would like there, if anything went there,
Sure.
this type thing.
Yes, ma'am. And I mean, even tonight, I heard some of the things that we've tried to implement to try to be accommodating to some of the adjacent neighbors as well. And so I think that dialogue goes a long way, and we're willing to listen and work something out. My lips jump a little bit sometimes.
And based on what we heard last week, and you were here, and I think we still got some of the people here that was here last week, I don't think this 3-story apartment stuff is gonna fly with them, for lack of a better term. But you just said maybe put a 3-story in the very, very back, which would be graded down
That's correct.
from what the front would be. The community may be more successful to that, but 3 stories already coming up to the front. I'm not here to speak for the residents out there, but based on what I heard last week, I don't think they're gonna go for that. So we'd be wasting your time and ours,
Understood.
okay?
But I think the community also stated that they were for development, just in
Right.
the right,
Right.
responsible
They
way.
did.
Nobody was trying to
Yeah, no-
stop development. So I think it would be smart to have the community come in,
Yeah.
hear some proposals, maybe even give their own proposals as to what they could get behind. What are our notice requirements, Randy, as far as how much notice we need to give?
Typical, 48 hours is what we
Okay.
need for.
To actually get the graphic to write something to, to get the
Well-
community at large to know.
Right, and Michael said
Right.
he's not in any real hurry, so maybe
Right.
Wednesday, September 16th.
Okay.
And
Is
I
that
think that the citizens need to be aware,
Mm-hmm.
this is input for everybody.
Agreed.
To
Right.
make it work for everybody. It's not we are gonna do this, we're not gonna do
Right.
that, but it's to benefit everybody and just listen.
Right.
And if I had to do it again, we would have taken a different approach.
Well, you learn from your experience.
Every day's a blessing. You can learn something every day, and so that's what
Absolutely.
we intend on trying to do.
So such a work session with the council and the developer, we could schedule that for 5 PM
On the 16th,
on the 16th.
does that work for the council?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, good. I'm just gonna put meeting with Mr. Hurt, and then you're gonna make sure our citizens know about it.
Absolutely.
And can we give physical notification to those who attended the meeting? Would that be possible?
I have all their addresses, yes.
Okay, thank you.
When is our downtown strong meeting, just so that we don't conflict there?
Did we say the 22nd?
16.
The downtown strong meeting.
Yeah.
22nd
Okay.
at 5 PM.
September 16th at 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I also get a report from Bob Lieberman. I actually talked to him today. He's on maternity leave. His wife had a baby, not him. But he'll be back next Tuesday, and so he's going to kind of give us a couple of different scenarios. Unit count has a lot to do with it. In the thing I just laid out as far as starting at the back, if you were to do something like that, the 2 buildings, and I don't want to speak for him, but our civil engineers are thinking that there would be no road widening that would have to take place given that situation. Because of the unit count, 48 units would be significantly less than 144. And so he's going to give us a layout of what a full build out or some type of community that's there, what that turning lane would look like in the middle, distances going from end to end. And I've also got an appraisal I'm gonna have as well, that's gonna actually reiterate property values. I think that's important too, that there were some concerns about that. So I did listen, and we're gonna try to hopefully I'll have some more information put together so that when we do have that workshop meeting, we can try to address some of the concerns that the public have.
Great.
And we thank you for coming back. We want growth, but we want to protect our citizens too.
Understood,
So,
understood.
but thank you so very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions for Mr. Hart? Thank you so kindly.
Yep.
So we'll see you on the Citizens on the 16th of September at 5 o'clock. Any other questions? Okay, let's go on to 7B. 7B is consideration of the submission of asset inventory assessment grants to inventory and GIS map the town's water and sewer system. Resolution 2020-19, resolution authorizing submission of water asset inventory assessment grant to the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. Do you want to do one at a time or both?
If you would care for some explanation, we have our engineer who's going to submit this application on our behalf.
Okay?
Good evening, Mike Tolson with Mackay Associates. I came for you last year talking about these two resolutions. The Asset Inventory Assessment, the AIA program, is a state-funded program that gives grants in $150,000 amounts for engineering services for you to go through and assess the condition and inventory your systems. We met last year. We submitted the application. It's a scoring matrix of 24 total points. We scored 16 and 17 on it, and the last awarded grant was an 18 last year. So we've met with the state. They funded 31 or 32, about $5 million worth of funds for water and sewer grants across the state, and several of them were the last 2 or 3 were 17 scores, and then there were about 17 scores beneath that. So there was a tight competition. There were over 100 applications for those 30 that wound up getting it. So we feel like we have a really good shot. We met with the state, talked to them about what we would need to do to improve our chances on this round. Think we have a couple of areas we can pick up a few points, and would like to get your permission to go back in and try to get these 2 grants again. It's only in the fall of each year. Most of the funding rounds go twice a year, but the AIA is only, since it's state funds, they have to wait for appropriations. So it's a fall only program. The deadline is September 30th for these applications, so hence why we're coming here tonight. The application is about 75% complete. I just need some documents signed and get the resolutions approved, and everything else will be ready to go in. Hope to have a draft to Randy to sort of review and distribute for folks to kind of pepper in their thoughts and give us a little bit of last minute feedback before we turn them in. Normally turning them in that day by 5 o'clock, just to make sure we've had all of the time to kind of review it and make sure we've quality control checked it. But the AIA program is the cost to the town in the whole thing is around $2,250 is the only funds that the town will be required to pay out of pocket for this $150,000 grant. The rest of the funds, there's some matching and some fancy verbiage about what you have to match, and that your cost match is $7,500 or $15,000. But the most money that comes out of pocket in any town is $2,250, and then the rest is what's called in-kind contributions. The meeting with Randy to talk about this, to get them signed, to get papers signed, all that goes as hourly contributions that have a value that work towards that in-kind contribution. So if you were to be granted both of them, your exposure is $4,500 to get $300,000 worth of grant money for engineering services in the town. Yes, ma'am.
What is your strategy for improving our chances?
Right, that's what I was going to say.
So they change the guidelines each year as far as what they're looking for, how they're going to give these points. They've added a couple of nuances to their scoring matrix that they're going to rescore based on, did you meet this criteria but not meet that criteria? So they've done a little bit of a more striation inside of their scoring matrix that I think will give us a good chance. But then there are some more details about how the asset management team, you have to identify an asset management team for each application. And one will be the mayor, one will be the public works director, which last year when we did this, we didn't have very much data about Mr. Brown. We had just started, so we've got a little bit more feedback and a little bit more of his history and a little bit better resume to put in there for him as far as what his experience is in managing assets. And they've told us this year that they really are dialing in on what your management strategy of your utility system is. It's the first clear guidance they've really given us on this is what we're looking for there. We're not looking for your finance director to be a member of the team. We want them to be, but we'd rather have your operators who are running utilities and doing those things. We'd like to know about those people. So really trying to dial into more detailed description of what the town is doing to manage and control and run a fiscally responsible enterprise fund.
I was told that we were not charging enough for our utilities. Does that have anything to do with it? I'm
Well,
talking about for water and sewer.
that is a factor in it. There are these things called the LGU indicators that they use for scoring. If you are 3 out of 5, you get a point. If you're 4 out of 5, you get 2 points. If you're 5 out of 5, you get 3 points in the scoring matrix. The sewer, you are fine. They look at the base water rate and the base sewer rate for 5,000 gallons of usage. You're probably on the shy side on water, and on sewer you are in the good range for scoring high on that. So you will likely score higher on the sewer application than you will on the water, simply because your rates in your water are not in the range that would show you as an economically distressed town. Does that answer your question? I'm not going to stand here and tell you need to raise your rates, but at the same
I was going
time,
to say, our citizens would say they cost enough as they are.
I would say that's I'm sure they have that feeling. But I can tell you, I can go in 3 or 4 other towns that we've put these applications in where they cost twice as much, and set for the same level of service that they receive, in general water and sewer.
Our
So-
sewer rate is about 3 times our water.
Yes, ma'am, I know. And your water, if it was about $4 or $5 a month for water for 5,000 gallons of usage, would likely put you in getting the maximum points on that water application. I mean, oftentimes it's a very small adjustment that needs to be made, but it's oftentimes an adjustment that, most councils and board members are not willing to vote in, and I understand that. It's just, that is the reality of how they score points. There are lots of communities that charge more for their water because they're buying it and or treating it themselves, or have all of the overhead in building the lines and having lines run out in, 25, 30 miles of lines to maintain, with, very little water being sold out of them. So. But, I will say that part of the deliverables, if we do get the grant funding, is that we will do a rate study and give you a real hard look at, okay, you want to put a new elevated tank in, then we need to raise this much money, then we need to see how that's going to impact rates, and you'll have a real picture when you're done with the study that we will deliver to you that says you want to raise rates by $1 a gallon or $1 a month, or however it is, in order to be able to raise enough money to build a 250,000 gallon elevated tank in year 2025. That's the kinds of things that we put together in an asset management plan with a capital improvement plan that will help plan your water and sewer infrastructure.
When are the grants awarded, Mike?
Typically in April, we'll find out. They're awarded by something called the SWIA, State Water Infrastructure Authority. It's a committee with the state. And so they have their quarterly meetings, and one of those, as long as everything gets scored and they are ahead of everything, they'll call the meeting. They're doing some different things with the quarantine stuff and everything going on. So last time they had like a teleconference, so I'm not sure how it'll be in April. Who knows what we'll be doing. But typically they go in, you'll find out, start hearing some buzz about them around the end of February, March, and then come around April, you'll have an actual award. We'll know about 2 weeks before the actual SWIM meeting, because the scoring spreadsheets will come out and the recommendations by the staff will come out and say, we recommend awarding to Town of Nashville for this, and it'll go to the SWIA board, and they can vote it up or down either way, but typically they go with staff recommendations at that point.
Now, this assessment is just to show us what we have and what our deficiencies are. This grant cannot be used to make infrastructure improvement.
No,
Right?
you can't use it for construction, that's
No,
right.
no construction.
It's for planning, condition assessment, you can do some smoke testing, you can do engineering-related services, which are largely assessment and condition type work that an engineering firm would take up for you and kind of tell you, hey, you've got a real bad problem with I&I in your system, and we need to go maybe look at another grant to try and get money to fix that as part of it, because it's going to cost $5 million to fix. And that's essentially what this is. This is sort of a springboard grant funding program that allows you to find out where you stand and kind of help you figure out the next step that you need to go to, if it's CDBG, low income type grant money, or if it's SRF, or you need to hold out for SRP type funding. There's a lot of different funding programs, and this just kind of helps you understand. It gets a lot of the legwork out of the way that you would have to do if you were going to apply and be competitive in those other funding cycles, because it gives you an asset management plan and a CIP and a rate study. You've done all that recently, and you know where your deficiencies are, and you're managing your system responsibly so that you are taking the next steps to use that grant funding responsibly as well. That's really what they're using it as.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think Sam has something to
Mike,
add.
how does debt factor in to the scoring? Just briefly, does debt factor in current
To
level? of-
scoring, well, they look at the financial information, and so they will look at your audits and make sure, and you have what's called an operating ratio that they look at revenue versus expenditures. And so, you have to have an operating ratio above 1 in at least the past 3 consecutive years, at least once or twice, to show that you're physically responsible with the enterprise fund. For the most part, it is, you can explain a bad year that a 0.9 or a 0.85 with unexpected debt or an unexpected expenditure, capital out, had to buy a truck and we had to shore up the fund, those kinds of things. But for the most part, it is based on looking at that, and your financial information kind of tells the tale for them. They don't get into, well, you've got too much debt. They look at that operating ratio and say, you're managing things well, you've got solid books, we're willing to take give you the grant money to go and help you get a leg up, or you just don't have the $150,000 to normally do. And that's what this grant will help you do, is do some of the things that you wouldn't otherwise have capital outlay for, to fund a study to do this or that. So it's really helpful. And I mean, the town's a very good candidate for it, for water and sewer. Sewer a little bit more so than water right now, but one of the big things that we hope to deliver with this is a GIS model that you can use, that the townspeople, the public works people, the manager, you folks on the council can take on your smartphone and find out where a manhole and a hydrant is, or a valve or anything like that. Not that we want you out there turning valves on your spare time, but the bottom line is that it'll be available and readily available, not having to come back to the shop to read a map to find out which valve to turn off when somebody's water breaks on them. And that's an issue, and I mean, you deal with it often in the operation side of things, and that's what this is a way to get that all in sort of a comprehensive map, if you will.
Any other questions?
Hope we have a better chance this year.
Me too.
What's that?
I said, I hope we have a better chance this year.
I think you've got a very good chance. And
Last year, we were very hopeful.
Yes, ma'am.
Didn't
And
pan out.
we're tweaking as much as we can on every application to try and get them, because it's a very competitive process, but at the same time, I do think we have a very good shot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I move to approve the submission of 2 NCDEQ grant applications.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll move on to our next new business item, the consideration of a proposal for garbage truck financing, Resolution 2020-21, resolution approving financing terms.
So, we had approved financing as an option during budget, and while I was out, I was able to get a really great rate for us. I sent out proposals to 8, I believe, and this this bank, BB&T, came back with the lowest rate for us. And so it's going to be over 5 years. The payments will be biannual and fixed rate.
And if you look in your book, did you look on page 41 where it tells you exactly how much our truck will cost? And Lord knows we need it. And the terms are right there for us to see. Would you read those, Sam, just so the public can hear that about our truck, or would you like me to read it?
If you don't mind.
Okay. Well, we desperately need a garbage truck because, you know, ours stays broken all the time and it leaks when they mash the garbage, and we've just had a time with it. But the truck will cost $350,000. The term is for 5 years and the interest rate is 1.67%. It's tax exempt, bank qualified status, and the interest is, like she said, semi-annual, and the principal is semi-annual. And so we're just excited that we're going to get our truck, but it will not be able to arrive here until when, about April, because they have to get it built and everything. So
The good news actually is that the purchase of the truck has come in, will be in under 350,000. I think it's about 318,000.
Oh,
well, that's good.
that sounds
So
great.
we're going to be under budget in just in the garbage truck purchase as well as the financing. on
Yeah,
this
what
one.
had to be budgeted for the interest rate?
I
think it was
we
3.
3.25 is what-
Right, okay, and now we're at 1.67.
Yeah.
Good job.
So do I hear a motion that we approve this financing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Hallelujah. Okay, our next item is consideration of preliminary coronavirus relief fund plan, and we're excited about that. It's 7D. It says Nash County has elected to share their allocations of federal coronavirus relief funds with eligible towns within the county. The town of Nashville is eligible for up to $88,767 in coronavirus relief funds. And we have a plan here that to use these funds, and the plan was submitted August the 31st, 2020, and it can be amended at any time. Did you want to speak to that,
Yeah,
Sam?
I'll just speak briefly. So the good thing about these funds is we can actually use these funds for expenses that were not FEMA eligible. So a lot of those things that we have already purchased, some of those telenetworking equipments and things like that, we can actually use these funds to recover.
That's great.
It can cover some payroll expenses that we've already incurred. We actually got some preliminary plans at this time to maybe build some more permanent structures in areas with high public areas. Some additional equipment, maybe for teleworking and sanitizing. And we've even discussed possibly ways in which we can maybe use this money to help the community. Kind of just a brief preliminary discussion on that, but that's sort of what we're planning to do right now with those funds.
Exciting. We're very appreciative of that. Do I hear, do we really have to vote on that? Don't we just approve it? Are we glad to take it? So we do have to vote, though, I think. So do I hear a motion that we receive these funding from Nash County?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Let's move on to our next item, and that is two budget amendments. One of the amendments is for our library grant. The library was awarded a federal LSTA CARES grant to purchase computer equipment. No matches required. Budget Amendment 3 appropriates these funds for expenditure.
So I just want to congratulate our library director. This is the third grant she's brought before us already this year. And so this one has no match. She's going to use these funds to purchase some mobile devices. Her programming has been kind of negatively affected by the coronavirus. So the mobile devices she can use to help promote social distancing while still running her programs. So that's what that budget amendment is for.
And she really has done a great job getting grants since she's been here, so kudos for her. And then on August the 4th, the council approved a flow meter study budget amendment for appropriate funds for this project. Amendment 4. So tell us about that.
So this was a project the council had already voted to approve. So this is just a budget amendment to appropriate the funds to complete that project.
Do I hear a motion that we appropriate those funds for the flow meter study?
So moved.
So moved.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then the next item,
Did you do a vote on the first one?
did I vote on the first one? Okay, do I hear a motion that we vote on the library grant
So
fund?
moved.
Second.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, manager?
I have one question about the flow meter. Those funds will be appropriated from fund balance?
That's right, at this time.
Okay.
Just a few things to update the council on. We've been notified both by Nash County and by the state of North Carolina that our people are falling behind on completing their census and sending the census information in. And the latest account of that is, the state of North Carolina is only 40%, about 40% of the people haven't reported yet. And what that results economically for the state when they run it through their factor is about a $7 billion loss of revenue each year for the next 10 years. So I'm not sure how we can get the word out. I do know we got a report from Nash County that showed every incorporated place in Nash County and how their census response has been compared to 10 years ago. The only one that's above and greater than 10 years ago is Red Oak. Everybody, including Nashville, is behind where they were 10 years ago in their residents completing the census information. And, the population brings money in for each and every town in Nash County and Nashville. And if we don't, I guess we just need to urge our citizens, if you haven't filled out your census information yet, please do so. Now, something came over the internet today to us in an email that there are some mini grants available. So Lou and I are looking into those. It was for economically depressed counties in North Carolina for the most part, but there might be some way Nashville could, and what that allows you to do is have some type of community event. And they give you grant money to do that, where you would pull in people who typically haven't filled out their census yet, and then have census takers basically there help them to fill out their surveys. They don't fund bounce houses though, right?
That's how you get the people here.
Randy, did you say 40% of the people in the state have not?
Yes.
Nearly
That's-
40% of North Carolina has not yet responded to the census.
Do you
I
know
don't
how-
think people realize how important it is and how much money it brings into
Right.
their area.
And there's
And
only
also-
1 month left to the process.
That's right.
And also your representatives are based on that, your congressional.
Right,
The number
right.
of,
Okay, do you know how Nash County stands in response?
Well, I was hoping to find that email back, and I couldn't.
I think-
Overall, we are down over what we were 10 years ago. Now, to what overall percent of people that we believe are here that have filled out their census as compared to North Carolina as a whole, I don't have that information, Louise.
Randy, I think I saw that today. I believe Nash County is at 62%. So there's about like the state, 38% that has not. I saw that. And that, if I could just add how important it is locally, I mean, it's certainly important on the state level, but the statistics I saw from the League of Municipalities was something like $1,800 per person in federal and state funds that would come to the town potentially. So every person counts as far as us being able to get funding. So I encourage anyone, if you have not completed the census, you can do so online, and there's also a toll-free number you can call. Or I'm sure if you have problems and don't know how to do it and need help, just call the town hall. Maybe someone there might even be willing to help.
And if you could pursue those funds, if we could have some sort of event, I
Yeah.
think that'd be a great idea.
If we're qualified, we'll check that out.
Yeah, that would be.
The other thing I want to follow up with has to do with, I've been in contact with Maggie Guru with the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency to see if by chance we can get a special buyout program for our Indian Trail subdivision. Some of the homes that have, the last event, we had several that had to have their ductwork replaced underneath once again. But as we heard from those citizens who came last couple of meetings, they've endured this for many years, and they're just really ready to move to higher ground. And if we can get a special program put together just specifically for Nashville. Now, Nancy Nixon with Nash County has been great to help me see and petition the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency to see if we can get a special plan, and I'm very grateful for her. She's been very helpful in that. So we don't have an announcement to make on that yet, but I'm very hopeful that they can find some leftover money to help us put a special buyout program to do maybe 6 to 8 homes, the ones that are impacted the most when Stony Creek comes up.
Is there anything we can do to help out to make sure we get this? Anything the town can do to help?
Well, I think once I hear from her, there might be an opportunity to maybe have our local state representatives back us on a request.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's always helpful.
all right. I lost my train of thought.
Would this be CDBG?
I believe ultimately, Louise, it is CDBG money through the Office of Recovery and Resiliency.
Do you have any idea when you'll hear back on it?
Well, I got a message from her today that she's still pushing it, so
Okay.
I'm hopeful next week.
Okay.
So, and then the final thing, it was mentioned earlier about the garbage truck, and, our side load garbage truck has been at Carolina Freightliner for a better part of 2 months. And the latest I heard on that is our automatic Allison transmission in that has suffered some faults. And the diagnostic equipment to clear those faults out with Carolina Freightliner, when they hooked our truck up to it, it went, eh. So they have to get a whole new diagnostics that's supposed to either show up today or tomorrow, and hopefully they will be able to clear those error codes out of our computer and in our transmission on our truck, and we will have it back. But having said that, our truck is 10 years old. I believe we got over 13,000 hours on that thing, and miles don't really matter that much for a garbage truck. It's the operating hours. But the sanitation crew has no confidence in its ability to stay on the road till April. And the rear load truck that we have, it works great for dry, bulky items being picked up once a week. That thing leaks like a sieve. It comes out of the bottom, the sides. If it gets full enough, it comes out of the top. And it leaves that smelly mess on the streets that I'm sure every one of you have probably gotten a phone call from a constituent here the last 2 weeks about. And we tried something today. It worked somewhat from what the guys tell me. In that hopper that they dump them in, that's where all the leachate oozes out. And when it gets so full, we put a valve on the side, we plug the hole, and we find a nearby sanitary sewer manhole. We pull the lid and empty it. It takes time to do that, obviously, and the hole's not real big, and it's susceptible to plugging up with crud. But went online today to see what we could find in a good used truck, and I would like to pass this out right now to show you. This is a truck that a dealer has in Pennsylvania. I got Lee and Kevin poised to go there possibly on Thursday if we can get it arranged to kick its tires, give it the once over to see. For what we could purchase this truck for is about what we spent on repairs on our current truck over the last 13 months.
Randy, the one that we bought down in Georgia, for what, about 65,000? That one can't be used.
We are using it, Louise,
okay.
but like I said, it works great for bulky, dry goods.
Okay.
You put anything that has liquid in it, and
And it only has 6,497 hours on it?
It does. It's a 2007, which is 3 years older than our current truck, but it's got half the hours on it. So that tells me, it's older, but it hasn't had as much use. So,
And the price for it is 44?
45,000.
Yeah.
$44,900.
Are we anticipating if we go with this, they're driving it back, or we're gonna have it transported here?
Well, I guess we'd have to work those things out. I mean, if the guys go check it out and they feel it's legit, we still have to come back and get council authorization to purchase it, so they wouldn't be able to bring it back. And Lee, what did they say they would charge for a delivery, $650?
Yeah, $2.50 a mile.
Okay, well, that ain't
But,
bad.
you know, I'm hopeful this, but, you know, we could get there and we could find out, you know, this thing's been washed and looks really nice, but it ain't much better than what we got.
Right.
In the meantime, we're still using the Rocky Mount truck.
Well, the Rocky Mount truck that we got, Louise, I guess quite frankly, we have wore out our welcome with the city of Rocky Mount on borrowing garbage trucks. The one we have can be used. In order to empty it, you have to hook a log chain onto it and open the back hatch with a backhoe because its cylinder won't raise high enough to get it out. The cart flippers on the back don't go high enough to actually empty it out. It's got several hydraulic leaks that you almost have to put a bucket under it every time you stop to catch the oil. So we have it. If we really get in a pinch and a bind, we would use it. But for now, ours that leaks leachate is still a better way to get the route down. But you know, the plan would be if we could find a good used truck to get us by till April when our new truck gets here, we would keep it and we would use it for a backup and a spare. And then we wouldn't have to pester Rocky Mount for a truck to get us through in the event ours goes down. So I guess I just wanted to give that as a report to the council and let you know, we are planning on checking out this truck. And if it does check out,
You'll get back with us?
we'll be coming to the council with a request to see if you want to do a purchase on it. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Randy. Any comments from the council at this time?
Mayor, before we close, I would like to thank Sam for all the work, even though you left us at the end of getting our budget together to go have your second child? Third child, to have your third child. But it seems like while you were on maternity leave, you were still turning nuts and bolts, working for Nashville, and I appreciate what you've done for us. The citizens we've got here from Indian Trail, as you heard, we haven't forgot you. We got something working, we just got to wait for, sometimes government moves slow. But we haven't forgot you, even though, don't get discouraged because we've got a 29-page report to do something for another neighborhood, but we have not, and I will not forget you guys. And last but not least, everybody needs to offer a prayer. I don't know if you heard about it. It's been on the news all day about this lady last night. And I drove through that rainstorm last night coming back. And several times I was almost ready to pull over because I couldn't even see what was in front of me. The only way I could judge myself on the road was to look at the cars coming. I figured if they're on the left, then I can stay on the right. But then my question was, are they in their right lane? So it kind of scared the heck out of me. But then we wake up this morning, you found out last night at 11:15 or something like that, a lady ran through a section right outside of Smithfield where the rain had washed away. From what I've heard today, Smithfield lost 4 rescue boats trying to get the lady and the 2 children out. They got the lady out and one of the children, and one of the rescue boats that they had them in capsized. They were able to get the lady back in, but they still have not found the 2 kids as of this afternoon that I've heard. So please pray for them, because the way it looks right now, it doesn't look like it's going to be a good ending to this story. So just send up a prayer.
Lynn?
I want to thank everyone for coming again tonight. We always appreciate the public being here and hearing what we are trying to do here with the town. And I want to thank Sam also for getting information to us. I didn't have a chance to look at it thoroughly. You just got it here tonight. But it looks like we finished the fiscal year off in the black, which is a good thing. And that's even with some one-time capital expenditures. So I think that's great news. And I'm assuming the audit is underway.
Louise?
The part that I didn't get was however the water and sewer fund will report a use of fund balance in the amount of $1,495,000.
That was due to those budget amendment transfers,
Okay,
that large 1.2 million,
okay.
as you recall.
It went back several years or whatever.
That's right.
Okay. I've had several citizens to call me about not being able to get in touch with anybody at town hall. They call and call and call. And Randy, I know you want to address that. I mean, it's about picking up the phone or being able to get to the right person.
Right, you are correct, Louise. I did get a firsthand complaint about that last week. After that, I met with Sam and Lou, and we revised our automated attendant on our phone system. And I believe at this point, that shouldn't happen anymore. We got things set up so that when the phone rings, it rings at 3 different phones within the office immediately. So we have 3 different staff people. Hopefully, they will be able to get to that. And if not, then we've simplified we greatly simplified the automated attendant, and it's very clear. If you want finance, push, water sewer questions, push 1. If it's zoning, push 2. If you want to speak to HR, push 3. So it makes a lot more sense now, and I hope people will be able, if they happen to get rolled over to the automated attendant when nobody answers the phone immediately, it will make sense what the options are.
Thank you. Kate?
I'll just echo what the rest of the council has said, and just thank everybody for coming again, and for coming to our last meeting, just to express opinions and tell us what it is that your wishes are, because again, we are here to serve you all, so we appreciate everyone coming.
And I'd like to thank you too for being here tonight, and for last week with emotions and everything. I was just so proud to see how everyone conducted themselves until 11:45. But anyway, thank you for persevering, and I'm like the rest of the council. We want to do what's right for each one of you, and at the same time help our town to prosper in all areas. Any other questions or?
Randy, can you give us an update on our property acquisition for the fire department,
Oh, yes.
fire station?
Sure. This, was it last week or was it this week?
It was last Thursday.
We met with the general manager of Clayton Homes, we being Mayor Brown, myself, and Chief Joyner. And we were informed that Clayton Homes is willing to give almost 4 acres of land to the town of Nashville for station number 4. So,
Station number who?
2.
oh, it's 2 acres?
No,
No,
station number
2.
2.
Station
Oh.
number 2.
Yes, station number 2, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, Monday then we had James Strickland out to survey the property. He met with Chief Joyner. He met with Matt Frazier, the manager of Clayton Homes. And we had Kevin Varnell out there too. We wanted to make sure that whatever piece of property we ended up with, we could arrange it so that ladder truck can drive in, turn around, and get into the shed, basically. And we've accomplished that. So we should have that survey result by the end of the week. I would assume Clayton Homes then is going to want that, so they can have an independent appraisal on it and use that for a tax write-off. At this point, what we've been told is if the town incurs the surveying cost and all the costs associated with conveying ownership of that parceled off piece from Clayton Homes to the town of Nashville, and help them get a permit with the DOT for it, because we're taking up the driveway that they pull all of their finished homes out with onto Eastern Avenue. Help them get another driveway that we will receive the land as a gift.
Isn't that a blessing?
That's a blessing.
It is.
So we're so grateful to them for that. Are there any other announcements or input? If not, I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
All right.
Meeting adjourned.